If you've done the Camino de Santiago, you'll probably have come across, if you haven't already bought, the Camino guide, the John Brierley guide, the practical and mystical manual to the modern day pilgrim, for the modern day pilgrim by John Brierley. And I just thought I'd read out something that was posted today that many will have already heard. Dear all, in this beautiful Camino community, I want to reach out to you, some of my dear dad's closest Camino companions, to let you know that he has now left us and is taking his first steps on his next great pilgrimage. In the end, his passing was as graceful and peaceful as any of us could wish for, slipping away in a sleep at home surrounded by his family and fully aware of the love and blessings pouring in from his Camino family and friends. John was always adamant that death was not an ending, but instead the beginning of the next great adventure. The new day's stage on a long pilgrimage that spans this world and into the next. With this in mind, we will not be having a big funeral to mark his ending. He would be ticking us off if we did, reminding us this is not a goodbye, but instead the beginning of the ultimate pilgrimage home. So we will have a quiet cremation in the coming weeks with just our immediate family. But anyone is welcome to remember him and send him blessings on his way in whatever way this feels most fitting, be it by raising a glass to his beloved Galician Albarino or Irish whiskey, by collecting and clearing some rubbish from a path, by supporting one of the many pilgrim associations whose work he so respected, or by helping a fellow pilgrim on their way. Alongside his family, the Camino was truly the great love of his life, his passion, his home and his purpose. It brought him so much joy, and I want to thank you all and the entire Camino community for the part that you have played in this. Please forgive me if I've missed anyone important in this message, and please pass it on with love and thanks, Gemma and the Brierley family. So John Brierley, we all enjoyed your books. We all enjoyed your books. I remember I brought my son on the Camino. Now this is a long time ago, and he's a lot bigger here, but you can see him. He was one of the boy does the Camino in aid of a hospice, and he raised funds. There was Ballina boy blazes on the Camino. So I brought my son on the Camino, and I remember getting this is the edition that I used for that particular Portuguese Camino. When I did it a second time, I got the updated version. I did it 3 times actually. I did it once on my own, and then I did it twice with Christopher. Last year was the third time I did it, and that was the second time that I did it with Christopher. So the John Brierley guide was, it literally has brought us to places, and if John mentioned something in his book, people would follow it. Like we on the Camino Português, there's a famous house that's run by a lady. It's called Casa da Fernanda, and I remember John talking about it in his guide. And we arrived to Casa da Fernanda, and we had a wonderful time, and we met so many people. But the great thing about his guidebook, he talks about the mystical path, and I just read you something from his mystical path. We have mastered how to travel to the moon, but we don't know how to find inner peace. Charity begins at home is an old saying containing much wisdom. The breakdown of relationships is endemic in our affluent Western world. We don't need to switch on the television to witness war. We are at war with ourselves, with our families, with and between our local communities, and within our own country. If we want to create peace in our world, we don't need to step outside our neighborhood. We just need to develop an open door and an open heart right here and now. So that's, in on the pilgrimage guide. So like he would have the map and different places to stay, you know, and all the stages, las etapas, every stage, you know, you'd find it in his books. And he'd have a book for every Camino. He'd have it for the Camino Francés, he'd have it for the Camino del Norte, the Camino Primitivo, the Camino Portugués, the Camino Inglés, all of these different Caminos, he had a book for it, or he had maps. So like, I mean, it was simply, I say I've 8 of these. And I'm holding up the Portuguese one because it was the one that I've so many bookmarks and stuff that I wrote on it. But I always remember every evening you'd go through what you'd be doing the next day, especially if you're bringing a child with you, which I was bringing Christopher. So you'd be checking out the elevation, how much you'd be going up and how much you'd be down, where we will stop, you know, because you'd want to make sure that if you're bringing a child with you, you'd know where to stop for an ice cream or lunch or something like that. And a number of a taxi, if you were really stuck, you'd use this book. And here's another saying from his mystical path: words will mean little now. We seek direct experience of truth alone, for we wait in great expectation of God and Father. We have come far along the road, and now we wait for him. We look ahead and we fix our eyes upon the journey's end. A Course of Miracles, Workbook Part 2 Intro. Personal reflection here from John. I surround myself in silence of nature, endeavouring to empty my mind of its constant stream of thought. To write these reflections, I must engage my mind. I will close this notebook and I will wait and see. So this is John Brierley, and I hope someday somebody picks up all of the mystical and practical reflections that he did in all of his guidebooks, and you know that there is a book to remember John. So this message is for Gemma and John's family, and you know, just for my part, thank you, John, wherever you are now on your next stage of the pilgrimage. Thank you, John, for these books. Thank you for having traveled the Camino and opened it up to so many people, made it accessible, made it walkable in the sense, you know, showing us all of the potholes to follow, what to do and not what to do, and the alternative routes, that you mapped out and everything. And I'll always remember John Brierley's books, and I just wanted to remember John, you know, after he's passed. And I do recommend people walk the Camino and get out a John Brierley guide. The Brierley, I mean, it was indispensable for walking the Camino, and I'll never forget his books. But I just thought I'd on this day remember him, and I'd say a lot of people that have done the Camino and that have read his books or have seen his books in hostels. You know, if you walk the Camino, you always see his books. There's Ivar, who runs the Camino de Santiago for him. Ivar, he would sell them on his website, and if you were buying credentials to get stamped along the way, you know, Ivar would always sell these books. But yeah, it's amazing how much he touched people's lives by walking the Camino and publishing these books. And I wish him well on his next stage of the way. You know, the Christian life is called the way. We are walking the way. You know, you might fall, you might get injured, you might get delayed, you might have to stop, but we're on a way. We're walking towards God, towards heaven. And I just wanted to remember John and his amazing books. And I hope this video reaches his family. God bless you. Take care. Buen camino. Ultrea. Bye.